Good evening, everybody. But we are back for another Finn's Forecast show. I'm back. I was a little under the weather last week, but I'm back this week. Steve is not with us. Steve's wife had the baby.
Yay.
Mother and baby are doing just fine. So, but Steve's obviously indisposed right now. He's probably
tired.
I was going to say he's changing diapers right now, but
probably taking a nap.
Yeah. But so we're going to get into it. Just the three of us tonight, and we're going to get into it. We're going to get into the Jets game. We're going to get into the upcoming Texans game, maybe playoff odds, and we'll get into it right after this. All right. Good evening, everybody. I saw you dancing back there, Josh.
It's hard not to, man.
Like 2 seconds left in the intro. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta straighten up. Here we go. Okay, we're good.
But yeah, so we're back. Dolphins pulled out a victory against the Jets. But first and foremost, how you guys feeling tonight? Anthony, how you doing tonight?
Feeling good, man. It's I didn't feel good about the Dolphins on Sunday. I still don't feel good about the Dolphins on Wednesday. But we've gotten some rain finally, so I'm feeling good about that, even though I can't go outside. But we haven't had rain in a really long time, so feeling good about the weather. Plus, it makes it so much cozier inside. That's nice.
Yeah, it does. I mean, not only did we get rain, we got a ton of
It's been raining all day.
The rain and the wind, man. Serious.
Yeah. And it's supposed to get cold, at least here. Well, I'm sure it's supposed to get colder for you guys, because you guys are both north of me. But so Josh, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing great, man. Outside of a random sinkhole that just popped up in our backyard out of nowhere. That's terrifying.
Lovely.
I've never dealt with one of those in my life, but yeah, it was fun. Other than that, really great. I thought the our kind of second iteration of the post game show that we did after the Jets game, immediately after the Jets game, went very well. Was very well received by our listeners and our viewers. And I'm really excited to really kind of kick that next phase off of our viewership programming, if you will.
Yeah. So just in case you guys are not in the know, Josh and Anthony, I was a bit unavailable on Sunday. Cooking dinner for the wife and I, but Josh and Anthony did a post-game show after the Jets game on Sunday. We're going to keep on doing those post-game shows. So we're going to be doing another one after the Texans game. So probably around 4:30, 5 o'clock is when we're going to get on and do that post-game show. And that's going to be a regular thing for us from here on out. We're going to be doing post-game shows after the Dolphins games, just to kind of get immediate reactions. While it's still fresh in our minds, whether we're frustrated or happy or whatever, everything.
It was a very raw conversation between Anthony and I. And when the show ended, I was super excited about how it kind of all fleshed out and how it all came together. It was really cool. It was like very raw, very genuine, and it was cool. It was a cool experience.
Yeah.
It's really because we prep for these Wednesday shows, but you don't get the same raw emotion from rewatching the game as you do the first time you watch the game.
Yeah.
So it's just that raw emotion is more relevant and existent in the show right after the game.
Right. Yeah, we've all had a chance to cool off after the Jets game, and it was a win, but geez, man, that was a tough game to watch. I as a Dolphins fan, I don't know, I struggled with that one. I was pretty pissed off when that game ended. And I was watching with my wife. My wife was sitting there on the couch with me, and the Dolphins won. Tua threw the touchdown pass to Jonnu, and I just walked away. I just sighed and walked away. And my wife's like, "The Dolphins won. Why are you upset?" Like,
I need a minute.
I can't right now. I can't.
That's funny.
So Anthony, I mean, I know you gave your initial reactions on the Jets game, but now that you've had a chance to kind of, flesh it all out a little bit, what's your reaction to that Jets game now that you can think about it a little bit?
Yeah, it's real funny. I think I was putting up Christmas lights or something, and so I was checking in on the game because I thought it would be a dominant win for us. And then when I realized it wasn't going to be at halftime, I started locking into the game a little more. And I did the same exact thing. We touchdown to Jonnu in overtime. I cheered, I yelled, the dogs got scared, and right back to putting the lights up because I was like, I just can't think about this.
Yep.
Let me wait for Josh to text me and say, okay, I'm ready to go on the show, and then because that's pretty much where I was. It's just funny to me how different Dolphins fans react. I was talking to a guy at work today who's also a Dolphins fan, and his reaction's so much different. It's so much like, yeah, division games are tough. At least we got the win. And I was like, God, that's not how I felt after this one.
No.
Nope. Sure wasn't.
It's still not how I feel. I get it. We've talked about how the Jets have a lot of talent on that team, but the Jets haven't utilized that talent in any of their appearances this year. I mean, they've looked just altogether awful the entire season until they play us. I mean, it was something like Aaron Rodgers hadn't had a 300-yard game in 35 games or something like that.
Was it 27 or 32 or something? It was some number like that.
I want to say it was 35. I had it written down for the last show, but I don't know where I put it. So whatever it was, let's call it 30 just to split the difference. Sure. Aaron Rodgers hadn't thrown a 300-yard game in 2 years, let's say. And it was just like, of course it was against us. Of course it was against our defense that apparently forgot how to play in the secondary and had no pass rush because it's impossible against a quick release quarterback. It's 2 quick release quarterbacks in a row that we just couldn't even get hands up for. So, I mean, from an emotional raw reaction standpoint, it was disappointment, not excitement for the win.
Yeah, I was right there with you, Josh. What do you think about it, man?
Yeah, honestly, all the same. I mean, look, hindsight's 2020. A win's a win. That's great, but I also look at how you win. Mm-hmm. And if you look at the team we played in the Jets, I mean, yes, they have Aaron Rodgers, who's a Hall of Fame quarterback. As much as I don't like the person that Aaron Rodgers has become, he was a very, very, very good quarterback at one point in his career, and they have talent across the field. Right. What was scary, and Anthony and I touched on this on the post game show, was they were missing Sauce Gardner and they were missing Breece Hall, and they still looked very good. Mm-hmm. I mean, so this game could have been very different and can be very different when we face them later on in the season. But I have some serious. The biggest thing I came away from this game was the defense is. Got a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. This offseason is going to be real interesting. I'll tell you what.
Yeah,
because there are some starters that we'll talk. I'll specifically talk about one position here in a little bit. Yeah, but there are starters that one of which needs to get paid. One of which should be working at a library or a gas station somewhere. And not that there's anything wrong with those jobs for those that are listening. Sorry, but should not be on a football field is my point.
Yeah,
and There are some questions across the board, and at every level of that defense, even at the defensive line position, which I think is probably the second strongest position on our entire team.
Got a lot of contracts ending on that side of the ball, and these guys are not making it. They're making the decisions easy. I feel like
for sure, 1,000%.
Yeah. So the secondary, it's been banged up, it's been kicked around. But Aaron Rodgers, as you guys alluded to, threw for 300 yards against the secondary. A 41-year-old quarterback threw for 300 yards against the Miami Dolphins. And he made it look easy. The guys were running free all across the secondary. Braylon Allen, who you talk about, Aaron Rodgers is probably the oldest guy in the NFL. I think he probably is. I don't.
Him and Calais. They were talking about how the 2 oldest guys in the NFL were facing each other.
And Braylon Allen, I think, is the youngest guy in the NFL right now. The something Jets like running back on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And Braylon Allen ran wild on the Dolphins.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of question marks on this Dolphins defense. Like you said, Josh, a lot of hard lot of hard conversations need to be had on that side of the ball.
Mhm.
And I think some of that starts with Anthony Weaver, because I think they are too talented to get carved up the way they were.
Mhm.
I think they are too talented to get carved up like that. But man, that was just a frustrating game to watch altogether. Watching, you got something to say to Anthony?
I was just thinking about that because I was
Yeah.
thinking in my head we're way too talented, right? And then so now I'm starting to ask myself the question: are we as talented as we think we are? Because we've gone through like 3 defensive coordinators, and the defense still looks like crap, but the same players, mostly the same players. So, I'm starting to think to myself internally and now externally, perhaps we're over assessing how talented some of our players are.
Yeah. No, I mean potentially, but Jordan Brooks had a great game. Jordan Brooks hadn't,
Sure did. Don't
Jordan
steal my
Brooks.
thunder, Keith.
No, all right. Not going to steal your
Yes.
thunder. I know we have to get into game balls and jock straps here. You know what? On that note, let's get into game balls and jock straps because we're going to
Perfect.
talk about these guys.
Seamless transition.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all these guys that I'm thinking about talking about. So let's.
Now it's time for the greatest segment in all of sports media: game balls and jock straps.
That little pink G-string is so insulting, but so fitting. So fitting
Yeah.
for one player in particular.
When I was putting that together, I saw pink, and it's like, yes, that's so good. So yeah, game balls and jock straps. I know Steve isn't with us tonight, so it's just going to be the 3 of us giving our game balls and jock straps. I do have an honorable mention for game balls after we're done. I think there's actually quite a few guys that deserve a game ball in this one.
Yeah.
I'm going to start off with my game ball, and it was Tua. Yet again, he was efficient. He was smart with the football. Threw for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Just another standout game from Tua. There's a subreddit called Top Right Tua, where it's basically just Tua all alone, in efficiency or whatever it is. And Josh, you and I were discussing it this morning. Tua's elite. People don't seem to count him amongst the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. Maybe it's because of his lack of arm strength or his lack of durability or whatever. But when Tua's out there, he balls out, man. And what he does, he does well. He does great. He does it better than anybody else in the NFL, the accuracy and anticipation with which he throws. And it was on full display again in this game. He was hitting Tyreek. He was hitting Jalen Waddle, Jonnu Smith in that overtime period.
Thing of beauty.
Yeah, he's making the right reads. He's making the right checkdowns. He's escaping the pocket when he needs to. He's playing a great brand of football right now. And I think that's, we kind of buried the lead a little bit because, we talked about how the Jets ran all over the Dolphins offensively. We don't talk enough, in my opinion, about how great Tua has been since he came back from injury. So he gets my game ball.
Do you remember the thing? I can't remember the exact numbers. The thing I sent you today, since Tua came back, he's thrown for was it 1,400 yards or 1,300 yards, 11 touchdowns, 0 picks, and over 74% completion percentage.
Yeah.
Something like that in the 5 games he's been back. It's like some statistic that's one of the few in NFL history.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I'm trying to look for it right now, actually.
And there was one where he was the first quarterback in Dolphins history to have, 5 consecutive games or something like that.
It's 3 consecutive 300-yard games with 2 touchdown passes
and no interceptions. Yeah.
Yes.
And I mentioned this on Sunday's show, but I think it bears mentioning again is that we have the best scripted play call series of any team in the NFL. So going to overtime and getting the ball first was not even fair to the Jets because that's a scripted series. And we took the ball right down the field and scored a touchdown. I mean, it's just.
I will say this, and McDaniel wasn't going to get my jock strap or anything, but I do have to question McDaniel a little bit because there's a couple of times in this game where he called the same play twice in a row, and it's like, how many times are you going to be able to get away with that? Like,
Didn't he
like
get
in
away with
overtime.
it every time though?
He did. The
Well,
third
he
time
did.
is when he didn't get away with it.
Yeah.
He tried the one screen to Achan a third time and he got blown
Yeah.
up.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But like he threw back-to-back plays to Jonnu. That
I
screen
loved
pass to
it.
Jonnu in
I
overtime.
absolutely loved
Oh,
it.
I did too. And then he threw that out pass to Tyreek Hill for the touchdown. And then on the 2-point conversion, threw the same exact
To
play
Waddle.
to Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
So I do have to say to Mike McDaniel,
Playing chess, buddy.
yeah, well,
When everyone else is playing checkers.
maybe.
I think a bigger criticism would be when he just gets too cute. I mean, I think we had 2 3 and outs in this game where the three plays he chose to run, I was like, what are you even doing right now? Like, why get so cute when the regular stuff is working? It just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah. And one more thing on Tua. What makes what he's doing so much better, in my opinion, is the fact that the Dolphins don't have a running game right now. Their running game is essentially non-existent. And I thought it was because Alec Ingold was out before. You know, maybe Austin Jackson had more to do with the
That's a
running
bit
game.
honestly. That's a huge loss.
Austin Jackson had more to do with the running game than I think any of us gave him credit for.
Mm-hmm.
But we're really feeling that loss right now. The Dolphins need to get their running game going at some point here, especially because they're playing this Texans team that is second in the league in sacks, and we'll get into that. But what Tua is doing is made all the more impressive by the fact that the Dolphins are essentially a one-dimensional offense right now. So I'm going to go to you next, Josh. Who's your game ball?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think this was the easiest choice I think I've had all season. My game ball goes to Mr. Brooks himself, our wonderful, lovely linebacker. You know, he was rated the highest linebacker in the NFL in Week 14. I think he was rated that way for a reason. He was all over the field. He played 100% of our snaps. Did not take a play off, not a single play. 9 total tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB hurry. He only allowed 2 receptions in coverage for 24 yards total. He had a 55.4% passer rating allowed on him, which is outstanding for a linebacker, especially given the fact that he covered, I forgot, was it Conklin? Who was their tight end? Who's Conklin.
Conklin, yeah.
He covered him from the 40-yard line into the back of the end zone and was stride for stride with him and had a PBU. He had a 91.5% overall player grade. He had a 91.4 run defensive grade and an 82.9 coverage grade. Absolutely banana stats right there, right?
Yep.
Just what a game. Just a man amongst boys on that defense. I think for as much flack as I've been giving Chris Greer as of late, this was a home run free agent sign. I mean, you could not ask for more from a free agent signing, right? I mean, we give kudos to Calais Campbell. We give, I give flowers to Kendall Fuller. I think he's a very good cornerback for us. But with those two, for as good as those two play, none of them play 100% of the snaps. Brooks is our rock on that defense, and it is amazing to finally have a linebacker that can play in the pass, in the run, in run fits. He stays disciplined. He's good in coverage. He's fast. He can lay the wood. I mean, it's amazing.
He came from Seattle too, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yep.
Thank you, Seattle, for your starting middle linebacker core. I mean,
pretty much. Yeah. Although Dotson only played 8 snaps in this game, which is
Walker's starting over him.
And I do prefer Walker over Dotson, honestly.
Sure. I just figured it would be a more 50-50 split between those two.
Yeah. But I'll say this about Brooks, and I liked him in Seattle a lot.
Mm-hmm.
His biggest issue in Seattle was staying healthy.
Yeah.
So if he stays healthy with the Dolphins, man, sky's the limit. Because he's been so good for us. He's probably, wow, am I about to say this? He might be the best linebacker we've had since Zach Thomas.
I don't think that's
the competition hasn't been fierce. I mean,
Well, that's true. That's true. The other guys, the Jerome Bakers of the world, don't set a high bar.
yeah. I mean, who else? What other linebackers scream out at you, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
like we had Donnell Ellerby, we've had
Channing, whatever.
Channing Tindall.
No, Crowder.
Channing Crowder.
Channing Crowder. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Who was good for like a year and then fell off the world.
Yeah.
But
Jerome Baker, who was always average.
I mean, yeah, Channing Tindall is our best draft pick of all time. So
maybe he's on special teams. At least he's playing a little bit now.
Yeah. It's actually nice to see him out there because he was the invisible man for his first 2 years in the league.
Mm-hmm. This will be his last year on the Dolphins, anyways. But that's okay.
But yeah, I love Jordan Brooks. Love the signing. Love the way he played on Sunday. One of the few bright spots for that defense, especially on Sunday.
Yeah, the only
One
of three. Well, yeah, the other two. I want to make sure I'm not stealing anyone's. The other two are two standard defensive tackles, right?
Yeah,
those are Steeler and Campbell play well every week, you know.
Also, exactly. Kendall Fuller didn't have a bad game.
No, he balled out, but he slipped on one and he ran a wrong route on the other. Like he passed something off that he shouldn't have. So I mean, there were some hiccups, but he played phenomenal. All things.
I mean, both are starting wide receivers at over 100 yards, though. So I ain't giving anybody on the secondary a game ball.
That's fair. That's totally fair. All right, Anthony, give me your game ball.
Yeah, my game ball goes to Jonnu himself, man. I mean, come on. He was invisible for the entire game, and anybody who has him in fantasy was probably cursing his name for literally the entire game, because I know I was too. And I mean, he showed up when he needed to show up. Like you mentioned, Keith, he got 2 straight catches in overtime to get the ball rolling. It was like a 20-yard gain and then a 15-yard gain. So McDaniels was like, "This is great. I don't have to do
it again."
And those 2 catches got us right into field goal range already. Yeah. And then they gave it to Achane a couple times. He picked up like another 20, and then boom, touchdown to Jonnu. With another dot from Tua between 4 defenders, which I've watched.
The most beautiful plays I've seen Tua and the recipient of a pass make.
Yeah,
I've literally watched this play probably 20 times at this point because it's just.
Me too.
First of all, it's the only play they show when they're doing like the game on NFL Network or on ESPN. But because for good reason, he threw the ball in overtime between 4 defenders to hit Jonnu in the hands for the touchdown. I mean, in stride.
You know, his little like drop back, and he kind of leans back and like cocks his shoulder ready to fire, and then just boop.
And I give all the credit in the world to Jonnu too. He ran the right. He ran the route. He was where he was supposed to be, and more importantly, he caught the dang ball. I mean, this NFL season we have seen countless drops, and not just from our own players in the end zone, superstars left and right who can't seem to hold on to the ball. So I've said it for the past 4 weeks. I think Jonnu has turned this team around. He's turned the offense around. I think he's the reason that the offense is playing so well. You know, we finally got Hill and Waddle involved in this game, which is why we didn't see Jonnu as much. That was obviously the game plan, and it was working, so we didn't need to go back to Jonnu. But when the backs were against the wall and the plays counted the most, went right back to Jonnu Smith. And God, I really hope we re-sign him. I know he's 31 years old, but please, please, please bring him back.
Give him a 3-year deal, lock him up for the rest of his career, hopefully. I mean, what is he now? He's 45 yards away from the all-time season holder in yards
for a tight end.
For a tight end in Dolphins history.
Crazy.
Yeah, so he's going to get that. I would like to think.
Yeah, for those wondering, he's sitting at 61 catches for 692 yards and 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, I think it's 724 yards, I think, is the Dolphins record.
Yeah. So, and, we talked about Jordan Brooks, being the best linebacker the Dolphins have had since Zach Thomas. How about Jonnu Smith being the best tight end the Dolphins have had since
Randy McMichael?
Yeah, Randy McMichael.
Or Fasano, maybe.
Fasano.
I mean, he's pushing the bar to be the best one we've had ever.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, Anthony. I was just thinking that. We don't have a strong history of tight ends in this franchise, but man, he's been so good. And like you said, Anthony, he's just kind of kickstarted our entire offense, and makes you wonder why McDaniel didn't use tight ends prior to this season.
Which is so good to see, because remember, in the beginning of the season, we were talking after game 1, after that Jaguars game, I specifically remember us talking about how Jonnu looked checked out in that game. Like,
Yeah.
he just looked like he was like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
I didn't think, I thought I would have a role in this offense when he did. I don't think he had a catch in that game.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that he's kind of become a huge part of the offense.
Absolutely.
Even though he missed the one shovel pass to him, I don't know how you missed the shovel pass, but it can't be perfect.
And he missed a pretty egregious block on 3rd and 1 that would have helped extend the drive for the Dolphins. But again,
I'm sorry, I need to correct myself, fellas. He needs 102 yards to be the all-time leading Dolphins receiver in a season.
What is there, 4 games left? I think he'll get that.
Yeah. Let's get him out on Sunday. Let's get this record over with, right?
Hell yeah. I do have an honorable mention, and I know, Keith, you said you had one too.
Yes.
I will cede the floor.
Well, my honorable mention goes to Jason Sanders. Oh. He missed an extra point in this game, but man, he was automatic from field goal range, and we needed him. As time expired, he had a 52-yarder right down the middle, to push to overtime. It was my lights are flickering, so if my power goes out, I apologize. The wind's really blowing out there.
Same here.
Yeah.
I think it's a blanket statement for this show, fellas. For those listening, if one of us or multiple of us disappear, we're all experiencing some really crappy weather right now.
Yeah. We're all within like 2 hours of each other. So if one goes down, we all go down.
Yeah, I just saw my lights flicker and I was just like, oh, this might not be good. But while I have you, Jason Sanders, he was automatic from field goal range, and he missed that one extra point, breaking a streak of 75 straight extra points made. So,
was that what it was? I was about to ask that. That's wild.
Yeah, and that's I'll give him a little bit of leeway on the missed extra point. Man, he was so good, and it's great to have the old Jason Sanders back, the old reliable Jason Sanders back.
Still not worth his contract, but good to have him back.
Yeah, I can't imagine being a Ravens fan right now and going through your True Prince fan. Great to see you, man. Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, I can't imagine being a Ravens fan right now and seeing Justin Tucker be so reliable for you all those years, and now he's just kind of
garbage.
Yeah, he's petering out, man. And maybe he'll get it back going again the way Jason Sanders has. But right now, I'm enjoying having a reliable field goal kicker.
Yep. And my two kind of honorable mentions, and I was really tossed up between these. Malik Washington for that amazing return in overtime to kick overtime off, where he like Madden truck stick the kickoff guy, the kicker for the Jets. It was amazing. And Patrick Paul, I thought, TA going out very early in this game, and then, Patrick Paul went in for a couple of snaps and and then TA came back in and then kind of shut it down. Patrick Paul, man, showed some stuff. I think he very comfortably can be the future at that position. I mean, I know it's a small sample size. I'm well aware of that. And I'm not trying to be a creature of the moment here, but his pass sets, his ability with his length. I mean, you can't teach length and size and girth and like the size of the human that person is, and his athletic, abilities, the way he drop steps, the way he gets into his punch, the way he reaches very well without holding. So when the defense lines up wide to rush, to do contain rushes, he's able to get out to that D end or that linebacker and seal him off. And he did it numerous times in this game. Set up Achan's, I think, his first touchdown. I think, didn't Achan get a touchdown? I'm sure
he did.
Another game. Yeah.
Yeah, he got it was one of those, passes where he got blown up the third time, but
yeah. So those are my
first two times.
Exactly. So those are my two quick honorable mentions before we get into Jock Shops.
Yeah, I love it. And Patrick Paul, you're so right about him.
Mm-hmm.
And I meant to mention him, and then I forgot about it.
Yeah.
He was really good in this game, and it's encouraging because pretty sure this is Teron Armstead's last season. He contemplated retirement last off season. I think this might be it for him. And if it is, what an heir apparent to have than what a better heir apparent to have than Patrick Paul. So I'm gonna move on to jockstraps if that pleases the court.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, Anthony, why don't you start me off with your jockstrap?
Oh, everybody knows what's coming here because I pick on him all year. I've given him a game ball once upon a time. He instantly made me regret giving him a game ball because he just went right back to being a piece of crap. It's Jalen Ramsey. Jalen Ramsey, where are you at, man? You're supposed to be the superstar corner. Goodness gracious, dude. I hope we don't sign you again. Or he's probably signed beyond this year, knowing my luck. Dang it. I hope we trade you.
3 more years.
I didn't like Jalen Ramsey in Jacksonville. I didn't like him with the Rams. I don't like him with the Dolphins. I am just not a Jalen Ramsey fan. And he was one-on-one with Garrett Wilson in this game. Wouldn't you know, Garrett Wilson had 7 for 114, one of his biggest games of the year. Jalen's just, I don't know, man. He's all flash, no substance to me. Like, this is a guy that makes a lot of big plays in a safety kind of perspective. Like, he's good at rushing the passer and making disruptions when he gets in the backfield. And he's good at playing the deep zone where he kind of just keeps an eye on a section of the field. But anytime he's forced to play man-to-man, I mean, we saw it in Jacksonville. He gets smoked by Brian Thomas. His first game in the NFL, Brian Thomas is just like, this is easy because this Jalen Ramsey guy
does it twice. He does it twice.
And, I mean, so again, he's in man-to-man with Garrett Wilson. I don't think all 7 catches were on Ramsey, but many of them were. Maybe 6 of them. I don't know. But it was just awful. I don't know what else I could say. I just, because I'm going to come across shortly as a little Grinch-like or biased even, because I don't like Jalen. But man, I just, like, if you're this touted top guy, you should be way better than he is.
Yeah. I also think, and I'm not trying to make excuses for Jalen Ramsey, but I think Garrett Wilson is a rough matchup for him. You know, Jalen Ramsey is a bigger, more physical type of guy, and Garrett Wilson, he would like Devontae Smith is a better matchup for Jalen Ramsey than Garrett Wilson. He was shifty. Devontae Adams, sorry, yeah.
But they chose to pair him with Wilson, right? I mean, he doesn't normally travel, and then he was traveling this time with Wilson. So
yeah,
they thought he would win that matchup.
Yeah,
he did not.
He did not. Garrett Wilson certainly got the better of him, and there was a couple of times where Jalen Ramsey got absolutely cooked, like not just beat, cooked.
I mean, let's not forget also, fellas, that Garrett Wilson is, as much as I hate the Jets, I mean, I despise everything about the gangrene, right? But Garrett Wilson, in my opinion, is a top 6-7 receiver in this league. So, we have a young, still getting better wide receiver with a quarterback who finally remembered how to play. And against us.
I completely agree with you, but
Jalen's
touted as a superstar, and superstars against superstars are supposed to win sometimes.
It's more like superstar versus half star.
Yeah, half a star. He's coming to taking my line. I'm taking somebody else's, so it doesn't matter.
I agree with Jalen. I don't dislike Jalen Ramsey quite as much as you do, Anthony.
Neither do I. I get your point.
He's quietly had a very solid season this season for the Dolphins, but this game was by far his worst.
If this is a solid season, I don't want to see a good season, fellas, or a bad season. I mean, you know what I meant.
But recency bias might be playing a little bit because you look at his statistics. To Keith's point, you look at his year-round statistics and what he's done for this team. He's put together a pretty damn solid season. Now he's still. Yeah. In the big moments when you need him to show up, he disappears.
I mean, he faces Nico Collins this week, so I'm not feeling very good about it.
Nope. Well, I'm feeling better about it because CJ Stroud has taken not just a single step, but 5 or 6 steps back, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. But I also think Nico Collins is probably a better matchup for Jalen Ramsey than a Garrett Wilson.
I think Nico's a better wide receiver than Garrett, though, so I'm not too excited about it.
I don't agree with you, but
we can debate that one. Both Ohio State guys. Shit out of that but we can debate that one. But man, that's tough. We'll get into that in a little bit. Josh, give me your jockstrap.
Yeah. So actually, before I get into my jockstrap, I'll talk about this after my jockstrap because Jalen Ramsey, I think, going forward, might be the perfect replacement for both of these starting positions. You see where I'm going with this?
I do.
So my jock strap is kind of an entire starting group, right? Which is the starting safeties. Poyer is forever on my shit list. Pardon my French for those that are young and listening to the show. If you're young and listening to this, cover your earmuffs.
Earmuffs.
But Poyer will forever be on my shit list. And I got to be honest with you, I've been very, very disappointed with Javon Holland.
Terrible year, man.
Yeah. Coming in the worst time to have such a bad year when he's due for a contract extension, and that's what worries me about Javon Holland. Now, coming into this year, to me, Javon Holland was a top 4 safety in this league. He was amazing in the run. He was really, really good in the pass. He was disruptive, and man, he could lay some wood on some players. But he has regressed in every single statistical category, and not by a little. And
he's looked bad.
I think right now, I don't even know if he's in the top 25 safeties in the league. And he's going to want to be paid like he's the best safety in the league. And so I very easily and would agree with the front office, whether that's Chris Greer, spoiler alert, or somebody else. If you're interested in that, go check out our last show where Anthony and I dished on Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. But,
it's been split into its own segment. It's on the YouTube channel.
Yes. But the starting safeties really did not show out well at all. And I think they were part of the problem. Right. I mean, I think they contributed to our starting cornerbacks in Ramsey and Fuller and Cater having some bad series. Right. Because if our starting cornerbacks are playing up close, assuming that the second and third line of defense is going to be there and they are both out of position because they both had brain farts, then naturally you're going to get burned. Right. So, I've been very not for whatever the hell my opinion's worth. I've been very disappointed in Javon Holland, and Poyer can go be a bag boy somewhere for all I care. But yeah, there you go. But I think to my earlier point, I apologize, Keith. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I really could see a scenario in which, because Jalen Ramsey's getting older, maybe not next year, maybe the year after, but he could transition into a safety role from a starting quarterback role and be very good. I mean, wasn't he that in Jacksonville?
He was the Rams. He was
Rams. That's what it was.
Yeah, I think he played safety for the Rams.
Well, he played a little bit of safety for Florida State, Josh.
He did. He did, and I'm a Florida State guy. I watched him.
Yeah.
Play. Yeah. he was he was everywhere, right?
Yeah.
On that defense in college, and when he went into the NFL to Jacksonville, he played a little bit everywhere. He was a light linebacker in nickel. He played the nickel. He played the outside cornerback. He played strong safety, free safety. I can't remember. But I could easily see a scenario in which we don't resign Holland because of his price, and Ramsey eventually moves into that role. Should we decide to keep him long term?
I could totally see that happening. Great cornerbacks have made that transition in the past. I'm looking at Charles Woodson. I'm looking at Rod Woodson. Guys of that ilk. Aeneas Williams was a great safety later on in his career.
Good pull.
So I can see Jalen Ramsey making a similar transition. I think he has the mind for it. Much to Anthony's chagrin, because I know you're not a Jalen Ramsey fan, but I do think maybe at this stage of his career, he might be better suited to that safety position.
I was wrong too. He played safety last year with Jacksonville. He played corner for the Rams. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but I mean, coming out of college at Florida State, I looked at Jalen Ramsey as a safety, more so than a cornerback. And then he became a lockdown cornerback, and good for him. But I think maybe his athleticism has regressed to the point where he should make the move back to safety. So I agree with what you're saying there, Josh.
Yeah, I look at Ramsey as like Minka Fitzpatrick before Minka, right?
Yeah.
He's what spurned or what pushed players like Minka to be that kind of Swiss Army knife, kind of put me where you need to kind of player, right?
Don't bring up Minka, man. We let an all-pro walk, and then we get rid of the coach the next year.
He was so good. Yeah. Could you imagine this defense with Minka on it?
Yeah, Minka and Javon Holland.
Stupid. Well, I can.
Yeah. We may not have Holland if we had Minka still. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, true. Good point.
Well,
but yeah, so I agree with your jock straps there. And that goes into my jock strap, which was Anthony Weaver. I don't think he had, and we're keeping this on the defensive side of the ball.
I just noticed
all
that.
three of us. Well, deservedly so.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers put up a ton of yards on us, 26 points. It's
Over
unacceptable.
400 yards of offense, right?
Yeah,
that what it was?
it's unacceptable to me. Anthony Weaver looks great in a t-shirt. He was wearing that tight t-shirt. His guns were popping out and everything. But you know what? Dude did not have an answer for what Nathaniel Hackett was throwing at him.
Oh, that's gross. I don't think Hackett's actually calling plays for them anymore, though. Right?
No, they said during the game that he is the one calling the plays. For
goodness, we got ropey dope by Nathaniel Hackett.
Yeah,
that feels even worse. Why would you say that?
My Josh Sharp goes to the Miami Dolphins. I'm out for it.
So, that's kind of you got played by Nathaniel Hackett. You got played by a 41-year-old quarterback.
With a very quick release. Look, I mean, for all, we crap on Aaron Rodgers, rightfully so. But when we tout Tua for being the fastest release in the NFL, and Aaron Rodgers is an eighth of a second fast or slower.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still pretty damn fast, fellas.
Agreed. But Aaron Rodgers has not looked like Aaron Rodgers this season.
No, he has not until he faced us.
Yep. He had a return to form against the Miami Dolphins.
I've heard that playing the Dolphins is like the fountain of youth for being an NFL quarterback. Like, you play us, and that's it. You're revitalized.
Yep.
Clearly. But, with that, the Jets have looked bad offensively this season. They play the Dolphins. They play Anthony Weaver's defense. And suddenly they look like not just a functional offense, a good offense. So for that, I blame Anthony Weaver, first and foremost. Anthony, if Jalen Ramsey covering Garrett Wilson one-on-one is not working, then you should transition off of that and do something different.
Yeah, I mean, you got Kendall Fuller on the other side, especially with Kendall Fuller back and healthy. It's very shocking that didn't happen.
In Cater, look, I think Cater would have done a phenomenal job on Garrett.
I agree.
Really, personally.
I agree. But again, Anthony Weaver didn't make these adjustments. The safeties weren't playing good football. Anthony Weaver didn't put them in the best position to succeed. He keeps on trotting Jordan Poyer out there for some reason.
Marcus May makes an interception in the end zone his first game with the Chargers.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable. Like we kind of could have used that, Yeah.
But... Yep. I don't want to. Let's not get me riled up about Jordan Poyer.
Listen, but we've talked about Elijah Campbell all season about how he's progressed, and it's like, I mean, what are we playing for at this point? Give him a chance, I know we're playing for the playoffs technically, but what is Poyer playing for? Like, is the real question.
To be the lead bagman at the local Publix. For those that are in Miami,
that's an honorable role.
It is, and he'll probably fumble the bag too.
Prestigious honor right there.
He probably dropped the grocery bag too. But
they don't have plastic bags in New York, and he's been in New York for the past few years, so he doesn't even know what those look like. He's just messing around with it.
We shit on him so much; it's so great. Okay,
but the point is, Weaver is the guy I blame more than anybody else.
Look, comes down to
the debacle that was the Dolphins defense on Sunday, and he needs to right that ship against the Texans this upcoming Sunday. So with all that being said, we've got our game balls and jock straps out of the way. I do want to shout out True Fins fan here. Jock strap for me is Mike McDaniel. 10 days to prepare. It took you 5 quarters to remember you have John Smith. Hey, fair criticism.
Yeah, but I will say this, True Fin fans, they were obviously game planning to take Jonnu away because they knew Jonnu. If you looked at our last 5 games since Tua's come back, 4 of them Jonnu was the first read.
Yeah.
Right. And they were double and tripling Jonnu. They had an underneath cornerback. They had somebody over top. They were doing, and that's why Hill and Waddle blew up, in my opinion.
Yeah. One thing I got to say is watching Cincinnati is, 100% of the time that Jamar Chase is the first read, and yet they have no problem getting him the ball. So it really drives me a little batty that we can't do the same.
I mean, look, for as much as I love John and Smith, he's not fucking Jamar Chase, guys.
No, I know. No, we got Tyreek Hill.
That's lit. Yeah. But also, don't forget, a lot of those balls are Jamar Chase doing some magic jumping out of doing some 360 catch behind the back kind of thing.
But there was also some shallow crosses that Joe Burrow was hitting Jamar Chase on.
Yep.
And Jamar Chase was taking him for 15, 20 yards or whatever. Like, I agree with what Anthony's saying. Like, you need to scheme a way to get Tyreek Hill the ball more.
You know what they also pointed out, which I didn't actually recognize how many Bengals games am I watching, is the same offense, but they don't do any motion, the Bengals.
Nope.
It's like they were talking about how surprising that was that Zach Taylor doesn't really implement the motion because he comes from that Shanahan tree where it's all about motion. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah,
it's very straightforward style of offense. And you know what? Offense is not the reason the Bengals are losing games this season.
No, thank God we don't play them.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That game, take the over. Take the over.
Yeah. Yeah. Joe Burrow is playing great football, and for Zach Taylor, and they're getting those guys the football. Same way Tua has been with the Dolphins. Honestly, it's been cool to see, but you know what? The defense let the Dolphins down the same way the Bengals defense has been letting Joe Burrow down. Defense let the Dolphins down in this game. And so we're going to get into, from here, we're going to get into the Dolphins playoff chances. I know they're not looking great. They're not looking great. But right now, the Dolphins currently have a 16% chance of making the playoffs.
And that's before the Houston game, right?
Yes, it's before the Houston game. If they win, it jumps up to 29.
Nice.
If they lose,
it
goes down to 5.
There it is.
So
I'm surprised it's even that high, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I think that's because of how good the Bengals are.
Now the Broncos are playing the Colts this week. The Chargers are playing the Bucks. Ravens are playing the Giants. Excuse me.
So who are we rooting for the Broncos Colts game? We're rooting for the Broncos. I would
We're
assume.
rooting for the. I'm rooting personally. I'm rooting for the Colts because I'm hoping the Colts stumble somewhere else. We need to make up ground. We need to make up those 2 games. So personally,
the Colts' remaining games though are
what are they?
Titans, Giants, Jaguars.
Ooh, Jesus.
Oh.
But like the Broncos though, to your point, Keith. So not only do they play Indy, they play 3 of the teams that we're head to head against. They play Indy, the Chargers, and the Bengals. So it's like, who are we actually rooting for? Yeah. I don't know.
Well, that is a question. Like, who? I mean, do we want the Broncos to? And this is an honest question. I haven't done the math and looked at every scenario yet, but I would assume we want the Broncos to beat the Colts, and then the Broncos to lose out.
Or they play the Chargers too, so we maybe want the Chargers to lose out or something.
Yeah,
something.
I mean, we're going for the 7th. We're going for
we
the
need
7th.
we need one. We need one of the Ravens, Chargers, and Broncos to go on a losing streak. So.
Well, to at least lose 2 of their last 4 to give us a mathematical chance at it. I don't know what the tiebreakers look like.
No, me either. Yeah. If we know if we're tied with Indy that we lose that one.
We lose that one. Yep.
So. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, that's just a little bit of a preview, I suppose. Just kind of getting into it a little bit, but
so the teams to watch, I think, is the important thing is the teams to watch, right?
Yeah,
we are in a battle against the Baltimore Ravens, the Denver Broncos, and the Los Angeles Chargers. Those are the 3 teams that currently hold the playoff positions that we're the wild card positions that we're aiming for. The Indianapolis Colts and Cincinnati Bengals are also in the hunt with us.
Yes.
Although Cincinnati is really on the outside looking in at 5-8.
The Colts
have the same record as we do, and they own the tiebreaker. So ideally, the Colts lose at some point in these next 4 weeks, or else we don't have a chance.
Yeah.
With every Colts win, our probability goes down.
Yeah. Definitely rooting for the Broncos. Broncos have the Colts, have Chargers, Bengals, Chiefs. Yeah, so that's a rough slate of games for the Broncos there.
Mm-hmm. So we want them to beat the Colts and then lose everything else, right?
Yeah.
And, all of this is predicated.
Ideally, but that Chiefs game might not mean anything to the Chiefs, so they might be resting Mahomes in Week 18.
Yeah,
but that is our best case, I think, because if you look at the Chargers, they play the Bucks, the Broncos, the Patriots, and the Raiders. So those 2 hard games, 2 easy games. Easy games. It's a really tough. I'm glad you brought this up, Keith, because it's a really tough playoff picture.
Yeah, and we might look back on this season and look at that Colts game the Dolphins just coughed right up to them with the Raheem Mostert fumble, with the Alec Ingold fumble, this game that we just kind of handed to the Colts on a silver platter. We might look back on that game and
The
say,
Titans game.
Or the Titans game. Well,
No. It's the Titans game from last year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, exactly. And look back on look back on that Colts game and say, that's the reason why we didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Cap for life. Thank you for joining us, man. We really appreciate it. It's
Welcome in,
yeah.
dude.
So
I'm gonna try to do the emojis. Boom, boom, boom.
How do you do it, Dolphin? There you go.
Boom.
Nailed it.
Bam.
yeah, nice. Well done. Well done.
We did dig ourselves a deep hole. It's gonna be funny in like 5 years, 10 years when if my son is into football, my currently unborn son is into football, and be like, how did the Dolphins lose those back-to-back years they were on the playoff hunt? Oh, I was like, oh, Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. That's how.
Yeah.
Who are those guys?
Yeah,
that one out,
exactly. See, hopefully the Broncos win and lose two after. We dug ourselves a deep hole. And that's
we need the Colts to lose out, and we need the Broncos to win 1 and lose 3. And we need to win everything.
I'm not ready to eulogize this season just yet. I'm not ready to eulogize the season. But when we do eulogize this season, we're going to look at the Colts game. We're going to look at the fact that the Dolphins didn't pick themselves up a competent backup quarterback. These are talking points. Just prepare yourselves.
Just wait, listeners.
These are.
What do they call it in business when you have like the meeting after the project is over, the post-mortem?
Yeah.
I always thought it was hysterical. They call it that. I'm like, what the hell? Why are we doing this? That's what we're going to have on the Dolphins.
We're going to have a post-mortem. We might even title the show post-mortem. But we're not there yet. We're not ready yet.
We are William Wallace because we're going to have head roll.
What we are onto, though, is this Texans game. Now, Josh, you kind of alluded to it earlier that C.J. Stroud has taken not 1 or 2 steps back, but 5 or 6 steps back.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you.
Yeah,
I agree with you. And going into this season, I kind of saw it playing out that way because for me, C.J. Stroud last season was living too charmed of an existence. He was throwing balls where he had no business throwing them, and guys were just magically coming down with them. It was too easy, and it's not as easy to play quarterback in the NFL as C.J. Stroud made it look last year.
Well, let's not take away from. Stroud had he was a baller last year, and I think what's changed, right, is that typical second year slump that you get with rookie quarterbacks. I mean, it's tried and true. Very few have been able to beat it, and those that have beat it are Hall of Famers. So, it was inevitable. Mm-hmm. But I think what Stroud's struggling with now is in his rookie year, defenses were not holding on to interceptions. There were a lot of balls thrown to the opposite team that they were simply not catching. Whereas this year, I think he leads the league, if I'm not, or at least he was last week. Top 2 in the league in interceptions thrown this year.
Yeah.
His ability to handle the pressure handle pressure in face and off the edge has simply gone down the drain. Right. I mean, you can, what did Sam Darnold, what was the Jets quarterback that said, I'm seeing a ghost. Yeah. Sam
Darnold.
He's got a lot of Sam Darnold feet in him. You can tell he's not comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. And he second guesses his ability his need to maybe take off and run to get 4 yards, to get something, to scramble, to salvage a play. And he's doing this year and I've watched a lot of his games because I knew we were going to talk about him because this was one of the games I was worried about. He's doing a lot of what Tua struggled to do 2 years ago and struggled to do at the beginning of this year, which is throw the ball away. Just learn to concede a play. Right.
Yeah.
Just the play's over. Like live to die another day instead of sitting there and taking a sack, getting a strip fumble, throwing an interception, or worse, a combination thereof. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, and part of what I was saying where he lived too charmed of existence last year was guys weren't squeezing interceptions. Guys were dropping interceptions. Guys were, he balled out last year. I will grant you that. But I also didn't think he was as good as maybe the stats suggested that he was last year. And he's kind of come back down to earth. That's not to say he's not going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, because I believe he will be. But he's come back to earth a little bit. Anthony, what do you see from CJ Stroud?
I see my fantasy team going in the dumps because of him. That's what I see. Absolutely just having an atrocious season. I mean, I say it's an atrocious season, but they have 8 wins, right? I mean, they have the division in hand, it would seem. Well, I mean, unless they have a meltdown and we end up, the Colts end up winning the division. I mean, anything's possible. 4 weeks left is so much football. It's an entire quarter, which we talk about. They break the season into quarters. I think just CJ is just. I think Josh said it perfectly. He's scared. He's playing scared, right? Last year he felt like he had nothing to lose. There was 0 expectations for this team. They had a new head coach, a new quarterback, a new everything last year.
Yeah.
And they come out and they make the playoffs, off of a season that they were supposed to be the worst team in the league.
Yeah.
But now the expectations are there. And obviously there's a whole season of film on him now, which is usually why second-year quarterbacks tend to have a step back, is because now there's an entire season of film on you. Now your tendencies are known to the opposing defense. How do you adjust your game? And this is where we usually see the busts from the stars kind of split, right? The busts will never figure out how to adjust their game again. And they end up just kind of fading off into a backup role or off into the sunset altogether. Whereas the elite or even just good players, right? I mean, as much as Sam Darnold has had like a tumultuous career, he's been good enough to continue to get on NFL rosters, which means he's been doing something right.
He looks phenomenal this year.
And he looks great this year.
Holy crap. Oof.
I think he threw for 5 touchdowns on Sunday.
He did.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, he was on my opponent's bench. It made me really happy.
But
nice.
To True Fins fans' point, it's like this is why you wait before labeling somebody elite. And we are in a we're in this type of society now where like as soon as you do something good, you're labeled a hero. As soon as you do something bad, you're labeled a villain. So nobody's getting that time, right? I mean, people are ready to draft another quarterback because Bryce Young looked bad in his rookie season on a team that had no talent. It's like it's I don't know how I feel about Bryce Young yet. I still need to see more about him, but like this is just life as a quarterback in the NFL. Like CJ Stroud needs to figure out how to adapt to what obviously defenses are seeing to stop him. And what better way to do that than to play the Miami Dolphins?
But I mean, on CJ Stroud, looking at his stats this year, up until the last category here, which is very telling, which is, in my opinion, one of the more telling statistics for a quarterback specifically. Last year he was 63.9% completion. This year he's 63.3%. So a very small drop. He's 3,100 yards this year, 15 touchdowns, 9 picks. Last year, 4,108, 23-5. But here's the stat that really tells me that he's in a slump. Last year's rating, 100.8, which is phenomenal. This year, he's under 90 at 87.9.
Yeah.
He's already taken more sacks and thrown more interceptions this season than he did last year, too.
Yep. So, and this is kind of a, stoppable force and movable object kind of situation, because the Miami Dolphins, they're second to last in the league in sacks, and the Texans have given up a ton of sacks. So, we got our old buddy Laramie Tunsil playing left tackle for them.
They got Joe Mixon. They got Joe Mixon, man.
Joe Mixon, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. I mean, they have some weapons on that team. But yeah,
they're loaded.
They do. So how do we stop them? How do we? What do we do to? Do we throw blitzes at CJ Stroud to get him to make mistakes? Do we hope Chop Robinson balls out? Like, how do we stop him, Anthony? How do we stop him?
You have to get to him. I mean, like Josh said, I mean, the main reason he's struggled this year is because he's not seeing pressure as well. And we've seen what our defense looks like if we give a quarterback even a second to throw the ball.
Yeah.
So if we're not putting pressure on him in some capacity, I'm not opposed to blitzing a fifth guy. And we don't blitz often under the Weaver regime so far. The couple times we did, I thought he had some really well-timed blitzes against Rodgers yesterday, on Sunday. On Sunday, I would love to see that again. Like for a team that doesn't blitz a lot, I think it's important to time those blitzes at really good moments. And I trust Weaver to do that, actually, because last week he showed me he can do that. Weaver called blitzes at very, very good times. It just need to get pressure from the front four on a regular basis here. And even if it's not sacks, just get those hands up, right? We've been talking about Chop doing that all season.
Exactly.
Get those hands up. And I think, I don't think this is an easy game, spoiler alert, but because their offense, as much as it's struggling, it's like Pandora's box, man. Like when it clicks, watch out, right?
Yeah. No, I agree. And there's too many weapons on this team to ignore the offense or discount them because they haven't been as good as they were last year. They are missing Stephon Diggs, I think, a little bit, but
that surprised me too. I didn't know how big of an impact he would have on this team, especially because Nico and Tank both played really well last year. And I think Stephon was a really important piece to this offense. It really built a lot of confidence in CJ early in the season, and they really miss him. That really shocks me. That truly is one of the storylines that shocks me this year.
Well, especially with the wide receiver talent that they have. I mean, John Mechie's no slouch, right?
Yeah.
Tank Dell, baller.
Yep.
Nico Collins, baller. Right?
Nico's so good, dude.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's Garrett Wilson good. No, I'm kidding.
listen, 12 catches of 20 plus yards in only 8 games. That's all I'm saying. Like, he's a home run.
Fair.
He's a home run.
Nico Collins is a damn good wide receiver.
Which his rookie season, they were calling for him to be cut too because he played so poorly. There's no patience, man.
He's a different kind of wide receiver from Garrett Wilson. I'll say that.
They're very different.
They're such different guys, and it's hard to even say which one's better or whatever because they play completely different roles for their teams, even though they play the same position. So, all right, defensively. Offensively for the Dolphins. How do you guys see them matching up against the Texas defense? Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think they got some trouble up on the front on their defense. I mean, Darnell Hunter is no joke, right? Will Anderson is a monster when he's playing right. Even what's their is it Tim? Is it Settle or Seedle? So he's actually been balling out this year too, and they're good at the secondary for the most part. They're weak. I'm not a huge fan, even though I really like this player in the draft. They're Henry To'o
or something like that.
Yeah, whatever.
Pretty good this year, man.
He's been pretty good, and I wanted the Dolphins to draft him at linebacker, but I'm gonna be honest with you. There are going to be chances, right? I mean, I know we're going up against an 8-2. Is that what you said, Anthony? 8-3?
No, they're 8-5. We played more than that. 8-5.
Yeah, I can't do math. Math. Blunt. Right?
What year is it?
Yeah, exactly.
2022 season.
All I know is it ends in Y, right? Look, there are going to be opportunities, right? We have to be an opportunistic offense in this game to be successful. And I do think if our offensive line can hold up, I do think that we will see the deep ball a lot more so in this game than we have all season, right? I could see quite a lot of plays that are longer developing plays with undercutting routes just in case Tua needs to escape and dump something off to Jonnu or to whoever, insert random third receiver. That's not OBJ, please. But I could also very easily see our offense hit those 20 plus yards, those 15 plus yards, maybe even a 50 or a 60 yard, maybe not a bomb, but a 30-yard throw to Tyreek or Waddle who breaks a tackle and runs it in. I mean, I really can. I will say this. I think our rushing offense is going to struggle. And I do think that a key to victory, not to play devil's advocate to my own comment, is to make sure that we establish the run early.
Yeah.
I think if we can establish the run early, if we can get Achane rolling, if we can get Jalen Wright rolling early, because I don't know what the hell's going on with Raheem Mostert, but he's pretty much out of the rotation completely now.
Well, he was
He
injured in
didn't
the
play
last
last game. Yeah.
Yeah.
right, but like the last 4 weeks, he hasn't done anything except fumble the ball and carry it
Well,
twice.
you lose us 2 games, you get benched.
Right, but I'm not complaining,
Yeah.
and I'm totally for it. Right,
Those are the rules. It's in the rule book and everything.
it's written down. It's in braille and everything, fellas. But I will say this: I think this could be this needs to be, at least in the early stages of the game, it needs to be a very run heavy to establish the run, because that's how you pull the defense down, and that's how you set up those balls.
Yeah. Anthony, what do you think?
I just can't believe I'm going to say this because I just haven't been a fan of his, and I was hoping he didn't make the team back then. But I think it might be time to see Jeff Wilson Jr. I mean, he showed pop against the Jets. Like,
yes, he did.
He came in.
He did.
Where we couldn't scrap a 1-yard run in this game with Jalen Wright or Devon Achane. And here comes Jeff Wilson Jr., just a freaking one-cut pop for 10 yards, and that was like the only carry he got. I mean, I think if the guys you got aren't working, try something else, man. And then I'm not saying take Achane out of this game. He's a huge part of our passing game.
Oh, yeah.
But, man, the running game needs something. And if Wilson's been sitting all season, this should be the healthiest he's been ever
in his career.
Yeah, right.
Well, he's the most physical running back we have right now. I'll say that.
Well,
I
disagree.
Well, Jalen should be physical, but he doesn't run as physical as he looks.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't run as physical as he looks. And
I think this is gonna be a big game for Jalen Wright, man.
Do you really?
Okay. They've been trying to give him chances. He just
So
hasn't done anything with it.
I mean, I've always been a Jeff Wilson fan, and there's a reason why Mike McDaniel keeps this guy around, because he's just a solid all-around running back. Doesn't do anything spectacularly. Doesn't do anything even good. He's just kind of
solid.
There. He's solid. He's solid at pretty much everything. But what he does do, I think he adds physicality to an offense that really has not a lot of physicality.
That needs it.
Yeah, like we're a team that's predicated on speed, and we have this one guy in Jeff Wilson who is kind of physical. So, you throw him out there. Like, it kind of burns me up to see Chris Brooks lighting it up in Green Bay right now.
My God.
Josh said that on Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, he was my man crush of the season.
Yeah.
I love Chris Brooks.
And he's doing some good things with Green Bay right now, and it sucks.
Typical Finns.
Yeah, it sucks because
I'm laughing.
We could use his physicality right now.
That's very true. I'm laughing because the chat always steals my dang thought every time I'm thinking of it. And I was literally just about to say, when you guys were done talking, let's put them all out there. Let's get a 4-man rotation. Let's surprise them a little bit. And Cap puts in there, use them all at the time. I agree, Cap. I agree.
Yeah.
Let's put them all in at once. See what happens, right?
That's what I'm saying. Because you could send Achane out as a receiver. Like, you just rotate him out.
I'm calling for a new double wildcat formation, fellas.
Let's see it. Instead of the I formation, it's the double I formation. Like,
and Cap, I had to bring up Chris Brooks here because, we're coming off that Thanksgiving game. We saw Chris Brooks do some good things against our Dolphins on Thanksgiving. Sucked to see.
Did he get cut, or was they just trying to put him on the practice squad?
We got cut.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, I don't blame them for putting like a 5th guy on the practice squad, but if they just straight out cut him, it's like, what are you doing?
We cut him. We cut him. Yeah. He was one of the final cuts of the roster this season.
It was him versus Wilson. I remember us talking about that.
Yeah,
I sure do. And I was mad, boys. I was mad.
And there, I agree with you guys because I like Jeff Wilson, always have, but him versus Chris Brooks, I would have taken Chris Brooks. I think that's a clear choice for me. So, all right, we've kind of gotten into how we see things going, how we see the Dolphins potentially winning this game. I think it's time to get into predictions here, guys. Anthony, I'll start with you. Give me a score prediction. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I gotta be honest, guys. I don't know enough about the Texans' defense here to say whether or not our offense will be really good or just good. I know they're not going to be bad because they haven't been since Tua really came back. So I'm going to call a close one because I think that the Texans' offensive talent almost matches ours if it doesn't match ours. Joe Mixon's having a resurgent year. CJ Stroud's struggling a little bit, but we just saw a struggling Aaron Rodgers blow us up. This team is very up and down, losing to the Titans and the Jets, but beating the Cowboys. What the heck is going on in Houston? I don't know what to expect. I'm going to give us the win. I am definitely going to give us the win. I'm going to say it's 24-20, but if I'm being honest, I have no idea.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I do too. I mean, I like the honesty too, like not know much about their defense. And to be honest with you, Anthony, I don't either. I don't watch a lot of the Houston Texans.
Am I right? Like we're in New York
Yeah.
or Pennsylvania. We don't get a lot of Texans games.
No, and even like I mean, I have NFL Sunday Ticket. I never put on the Texans.
I do. I watch them religious. No,
yeah.
Well, I mean, I just know that they have big names on D. Right? Will Anderson Jr. is legit, right? Derek Stingley is legit, and Daniil Hunter. But outside of that, so I guess offensive line, get your popcorn ready.
Don't forget Henry Tutu or whatever.
Yeah, Tua Tapatuo.
Yeah, Tapatio.
Yeah, that guy. He's listen. Watch their defense just destroy us.
Destroy us. Tapatio has like 5 sacks.
Yeah, unbelievable. But listen, keep Tua clean, man. He got sacked 5 times in the Green Bay game, no times last week. So let's repeat that.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a team that is second in the league in sacks, I believe. So they can get after the quarterback.
Wow, true. I just predicted a 4-point win. You can't come in with the same 4-point win.
Oh, man.
Lazy. That's just lazy.
Lazy analysis coming from the chat here. What are we doing?
All right, Josh, give me your prediction.
Yeah, so I actually went to the history between these two teams, right? So we've actually faced them since we faced them 10 times, right? Since our first meeting in 2002. Okay. Miami, we've edged them. We have 8 wins to 2 wins all time. So we beat them 8 times. They've beat us twice. The average score in all of those games, Miami's averaged 24.5 points, 24.7, and Houston's averaged 19.6. So
holy crap, that's almost my prediction exactly.
So historically, it's been a relatively close game between these, no matter how bad both teams have been. I actually think this is going to also be a close game. I have it 33-26 Miami.
Okay. Cap for Life says 35-31.
Oops.
What was yours, Josh?
33-26.
33-26. I'm writing down everybody's in this chat too.
I mean, how I got to the 30-point mark for the Fins is we've been averaging 30 points since Tua's come back. So I just don't see. I think this is going to be a shootout. I think there'll be a lull in the middle of the game, but this should be a really good, a fun game to watch. Nerve-wracking, but a fun game to watch.
It's always nerve-wracking when the Fins are on, man. Hey. The only game that wasn't nerve-wracking was the Denver Broncos beatdown last year. That's the only one.
Well, it was nerve-wracking because they weren't going for the record.
Yeah. And I was okay with them not going for the record last year. It was a classy move from McDaniels.
Screw that.
I couldn't believe we scored 70 points. I was just having an out-of-body experience.
Robbie Chosen getting a long touchdown pass. It's like,
that's more points than we scored. It was like more points than we scored the entire previous season in one game.
All right, so I have a different feeling on this game than you guys do.
Oh crap!
I don't think much of the Texans. I just don't. I think their 8-5 record is the result of an easier schedule, a lighter schedule. I don't think much of CJ Stroud this season. Going into the season, I saw the Texans as candidates for regression.
Before you say your score, though, just be warned that I predicted 38-13 over the Jets, and look how that turned out. I'm just saying. Just saying.
Well, yeah.
Ain't no one going to hold you down, Keith. Give it to us, big guy.
I do think the Dolphins are going to come off this Jets game kind of pissed off at themselves. Defensively,
like 56-12.
Even offensively, they're going to come away from that Jets game thinking, how the hell did this crap ass Jets team push us to overtime? So they're going to go down to Houston, and this is going to be a statement game. This isn't going to be one of those games where we change the narrative that the Dolphins can't win in January or December against cold weather.
At least
this narrative is going to endure into next season. That being said, I do think the Dolphins win this one fairly handily. So give me a 36-21 win over the Houston Texans.
Ooh, that's a good score.
Yeah, you and Cap with the 30. Josh, you too. 33, 35, 36. Whew.
Yep. I mean, look, they've been averaging 30 points. I don't think that's a stretch, right?
No.
It's just what is our defense going to do, right? And I think we really need to we need our offense to click early. We need Mike McDaniel to not call any dumb plays in a row. and we need I think the biggest thing we need is to make sure that our penalties are down, because then we're not halting drives like we have done in the past.
Yeah. Again, I'd like to see us establish the run a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to see us not be as one-dimensional on offense, because you can't get away with that forever.
No.
So even if running the football isn't working for the Dolphins, I think you still have to do it. I think even if that means you're in a lot of 2nd and 9 situations or 2nd and 11 situations, you still have to just continuously run the ball. McDaniel hasn't always been good at that. McDaniel always hasn't. He hasn't always been willing to stick with the run as long as he probably should. So he's going to need to do that in this game, I think.
As much as I want to believe this right here, man, this team has just shown me no sort of like how bad we want it. So, like, oh man, they frustrate me. Listen to that rant from the Sunday show too.
Yeah, well, look, that was a good show.
It's been a frustrating season, but there are still things. There's still positive things to glean from this season. There's still positives that can come out of this season. And again, the Dolphins are not even close to mathematically eliminated from this season, but they need this victory against the Texans. With that in mind, the Dolphins are going to play the Texans at 1:00 on Sunday. We will be back on this show at 4:30, 4:30, 5:00,
something like that. Yeah,
5:00.
Yeah,
5:00.
Yep.
To do a post game show, do a post. I'm not even going to call it a post mortem. I'm going to say a post game show. Hopefully we are excited. Hopefully we're happy, but we are going to talk this game through.
Yeah, Keith, I think if you don't mind, let's do a recap of what the show, the new addition to the Fins Forecast lineup is going to be for those specifically Cap and True Fin fan that weren't here for the start of the show.
Yeah, so after every Dolphins game, we're gonna do a post game show. We're gonna go through a quarter by quarter. We're gonna do it it's gonna be, to Anthony, when Anthony said it, it's gonna be more raw. It's gonna be more off the cuff. We're gonna be emotional, one way or the other. We're gonna be emotional,
especially if we lose.
Yeah.
Get ready.
Yeah. But if we win, we're gonna be fired up. So, But tune in at 5:00 on Sunday, and we're gonna go through the game quarter by quarter, snap by snap, drive by drive, if need be. But we're gonna analyze everything about the game, and we're gonna do it from kind of off the cuff, kind of way of doing things, because you can't really prepare in the middle of the game. We're just gonna talk. We're just gonna go.
Yeah, it made for a really good show last week. It really.
With 3 of us now, potentially, I don't know if Steve will be here yet, but 3 or 4 of us, it's going to be even crazier.
Yeah. So tune in at 5:00.
Cap and True Fin fans, I'm also from Miami originally. I live in Connecticut now, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, let's just hope our players believe that as well.
Yeah. So I've actually never lived in Miami. I've always been a Northeast guy, but I will take your guys' word for it.
I lived in Port St. Lucie, but that's still quite a few hours away from Miami. So
yes, it is.
So yeah, guys, if you like what you saw, please like, subscribe, leave some comments. We'll be happy to answer them for you. And we will see you guys at 5:00 on Sunday after the Dolphins' hopefully eventual victory.
Oh, it's a victory
against the
Sunday,
Houston,
baby.
Yeah, against the Houston Texans. So listen, guys, for Anthony, for Josh, for myself, for Steve, who's with his baby right now, his newborn baby, little Gianna.
Congratulations again. Yeah, newest Dolphins fan.
Yes, exactly. We will see you guys on Sunday. Until then, fins up.
Fins up.
Good night.
Oh. I always do that.